When most people think of wood, they imagine lumber for houses, firewood stacked beside a fireplace, or furniture filling a living room. But hidden within the world's forests are trees so extraordinary that a single piece of their timber can be worth more than precious metals. Some require more than a century to mature. Others have become so rare that international trade is tightly controlled. And one remarkable wood forms only after a tree becomes infected by a rare fungus, transforming ordinary timber into one of the most expensive natural materials on Earth. Today, we're counting down 7 of the most valuable and fascinating woods ever discovered. These aren't just beautiful timbers, they're botanical masterpieces that have shaped history, inspired master craftsmen, fueled illegal smuggling, and pushed entire species toward extinction. Be sure to stay until the very end, because the #1 wood isn't simply rare. It can sell for well over $100,000 per kilogram, making it one of the most valuable natural materials you'll ever encounter. And before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We bring you incredible discoveries from nature every week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Number 7. African Blackwood. Imagine holding a piece of wood so dark it seems to absorb light instead of reflecting it. Unlike ordinary hardwoods, African Blackwood possesses an almost flawless black heartwood that appears incredibly deep and rich. Its smooth surface develops a natural polish unlike almost any other timber, giving finished instruments and decorative pieces an unmistakable elegance. Native to the dry savannas of East Africa, African Blackwood grows at an incredibly slow pace. Many trees require 60 to 70 years before reaching a size suitable for harvesting, and even then, their trunks remain surprisingly narrow. That painfully slow growth creates an exceptionally dense cellular structure. In fact, African Blackwood ranks among the densest commercial woods on Earth. It is so stable that changes in humidity cause almost no expansion or contraction, a characteristic that makes it invaluable for precision craftsmanship. For centuries, artisans recognized these remarkable qualities, but its true reputation emerged when European instrument makers began searching for the perfect material to build professional woodwind instruments. Today, more than 90% of the world's professional clarinets and oboes are crafted from African Blackwood. Musicians prize it because its density produces a rich, focused tone while maintaining incredible tuning stability. Even tiny dimensional changes can affect the sound of an instrument, yet African Blackwood remains remarkably consistent year after year. Despite modern advances in synthetic materials, no alternative has completely matched its unique acoustic performance. Unfortunately, demand has come at a tremendous cost. Decades of heavy harvesting have dramatically reduced natural populations throughout East Africa. Because the trees grow so slowly, forests simply cannot replace them fast enough. Today, premium African Blackwood can sell for hundreds of dollars per pound, making it one of the world's most valuable commercial timbers. It's a perfect reminder that nature sometimes creates materials science has yet to improve upon. Number 6. Honduran Rosewood. Some woods impress you with strength. Others captivate you with color. Honduran Rosewood manages to do both. Its heartwood displays deep reddish-brown tones, layered with subtle streaks of violet and dark chocolate, creating a richness that seems to glow beneath a polished surface. Every board reveals flowing grain patterns that resemble fine works of art rather than ordinary lumber. This extraordinary timber grows naturally in only a handful of forests across Belize and Guatemala, where the trees develop slowly over many decades. Beyond its striking appearance, Honduran rosewood possesses exceptional density, remarkable stability, and a naturally pleasant fragrance that lingers long after the wood has been cut. Those qualities eventually caught the attention of some of the world's greatest guitar builders. Throughout the 20th century, master luthiers discovered that Honduran rosewood produced instruments with remarkable warmth, sustain, and tonal balance. Vintage acoustic guitars, built with this wood during the 1930s through the 1960s, are now considered among the finest instruments ever made. Collectors regularly pay extraordinary prices for well-preserved examples, with some selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. The wood itself has become nearly impossible to obtain. Years of overharvesting dramatically reduced wild populations, forcing governments to introduce strict international protections. Today, commercial exports are heavily regulated, and legally harvested supplies are extremely limited. Existing stock often sells for several $100s per board foot, while highly figured pieces command even higher prices among specialty wood dealers. Its scarcity has only increased its legendary reputation. For many craftsmen, owning a single board of genuine Honduran rosewood is no longer simply a purchase. It's an opportunity that may never come again. And as we'll soon discover, the next woods on our list become even more remarkable, combining incredible physical properties with fascinating histories that stretch back centuries. Number 5. Lignum vitae. Imagine dropping a block of wood into a lake, only to watch it sink straight to the bottom like a stone. That may sound impossible, but Lignum vitae is anything but ordinary. Often called the wood of life, this remarkable timber is widely recognized as one of the densest commercial woods ever discovered. Its density is so extraordinary that it outweighs water, causing it to sink instead of float, a characteristic shared by very few tree species on Earth. Native to the Caribbean and parts of northern South America, Lignum vitae grows incredibly slowly. Some trees require nearly a century before reaching a harvestable size, making every mature specimen exceptionally valuable. But density alone isn't what makes this wood legendary. Its cells contain an unusually high concentration of natural resin, giving the wood a smooth, wax-like texture. That resin acts as a built-in lubricant, allowing moving mechanical parts to operate with remarkably little friction. Long before modern engineering plastics existed, shipbuilders discovered that lignum vitae could outperform metal in certain applications. For hundreds of years, the British Royal Navy relied on it to manufacture propeller shaft bearings, pulleys, and other critical components aboard warships. Even the famous HMS Victory, Admiral Nelson's flagship during the Battle of Trafalgar, incorporated lignum vitae into its mechanical systems. The wood proved incredibly durable under harsh marine conditions, resisting seawater while requiring virtually no additional lubrication. Its reputation extended beyond engineering. Early European settlers believed the tree possessed powerful medicinal properties, earning it the Latin name Lignum vitae, meaning wood of life. Although many of those medical claims were eventually disproven, the enormous demand placed tremendous pressure on wild populations throughout the Caribbean. Today, mature trees are increasingly scarce. Premium pieces can command hundreds of dollars per pound, not simply because of their rarity, but because few modern materials combine such exceptional strength, natural lubrication, and historical significance in a single piece of timber. Lignum vitae reminds us that sometimes nature solves engineering problems long before humans even recognize them. Number 4. Brazilian rosewood. Few woods have achieved the legendary status of Brazilian rosewood. Even people who know little about woodworking have likely heard its name whispered with admiration among musicians, collectors, and master craftsmen. At first glance, it's easy to understand why. Its heartwood displays dramatic ribbons of chocolate brown, golden amber, deep crimson, and nearly black streaks flowing together in mesmerizing patterns. Every board possesses a unique appearance, making no two pieces exactly alike. Freshly cut wood releases a subtle floral fragrance that can linger for decades, giving rise to the name Rosewood. But beauty is only part of the story. For much of the 20th century, Brazilian rosewood became the gold standard for premium acoustic guitars. Many of the instruments that shaped modern folk, blues, country, and rock music were crafted from this extraordinary timber. Luthiers praised its exceptional resonance, rich overtones, and remarkable sustain, qualities that many musicians still believe have never been fully replicated by any substitute. Vintage guitars built from Brazilian rosewood have become some of the most sought-after instruments in the world, with rare examples selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Unfortunately, popularity came at an enormous environmental cost. The tree grows naturally within Brazil's Atlantic forest, one of the most threatened ecosystems on the planet. Decades of aggressive logging devastated wild populations as international demand continued to rise. Eventually, conservation authorities stepped in. Today, Brazilian rosewood is listed under the highest level of international protection through CITES, making commercial trade in newly harvested wood effectively prohibited across most of the world. Yet despite these restrictions, illegal logging continues to threaten the remaining forests. Existing legal stock is extremely limited, and premium boards frequently sell for anywhere between $500 and $2,000 per board foot, depending on quality and figure. For collectors and instrument makers, owning genuine Brazilian rosewood is like owning a piece of musical history. Its extraordinary beauty, unmatched acoustic performance, and near-mythical rarity have transformed it from a building material into one of the most coveted woods ever harvested. And somehow, the final 3 entries on our list become even more extraordinary. Number 3. Gaboon ebony. What if a tree could produce wood so perfectly black that it became the very definition of the color itself? That's exactly what makes Gaboon ebony so extraordinary. Unlike many decorative hardwoods that rely on dramatic grain patterns or colorful streaks, Gaboon ebony is prized for the opposite. Its heartwood is an almost flawless jet black, creating a smooth, uniform appearance that seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. Polished to a high shine, it resembles black marble more than wood. Native to the rainforests of Central and West Africa, particularly Gabon, Cameroon, and neighboring countries, this remarkable tree grows at an incredibly slow pace. It may take well over a century before enough dark heartwood develops inside the trunk to make harvesting worthwhile. Even then, not every tree qualifies. Only a small portion of the trunk typically contains the prized black heartwood. Much of the surrounding wood is pale, or streaked with lighter colors, making truly premium logs exceptionally rare. For thousands of years, civilizations have treasured ebony as a symbol of wealth and prestige. Ancient Egyptian artisans carved it into ceremonial objects and royal furniture. Roman craftsmen incorporated it into luxurious inlays, while later European cabinet makers transformed it into masterpieces destined for kings and nobles. As international trade expanded, Gaboon ebony became the preferred material for countless luxury products. Before synthetic materials became common, nearly every concert piano featured ebony-covered black keys, fine chess sets, handcrafted knife handles, billiard cues, sculpture, and luxury furniture all relied on its unmatched beauty and durability. Musical instrument makers continue to prize it today. Its remarkable hardness and stability make it ideal for guitar fingerboards, violin fittings, and other precision components that must withstand decades of constant use without losing their shape. But decades of selective harvesting have left a lasting impact. Loggers consistently targeted only the darkest trees, leaving fewer mature specimens capable of producing the premium heartwood collectors seek today. As a result, genuine Gaboon ebony has become increasingly difficult to source legally. High-quality material now commands hundreds of dollars per pound, while perfectly black pieces are considered treasures among woodworkers and instrument makers alike. Gaboon ebony proves that sometimes true luxury isn't created through complexity, but through breathtaking simplicity. Number 2. Agarwood. High grade. Most valuable woods are prized for their beauty. Agarwood is prized because it tells the story of survival. At first glance, an Aquilaria tree appears completely ordinary. Its pale interior wood has little commercial value and looks much like countless other tropical trees. But everything changes when nature intervenes. When the tree is wounded and becomes infected by certain naturally occurring fungi, it begins fighting back. Over many years, sometimes decades, it produces a rich, dark aromatic resin that slowly saturates the surrounding heartwood. That defensive response transforms plain timber into one of the rarest and most sought-after natural materials on Earth. The result is agarwood. Dense, dark, and incredibly fragrant, high-grade agarwood has been treasured across Asia and the Middle East for more than 2,000 years. Its scent is unlike ordinary wood. Warm, sweet, woody, slightly smoky, and layered with remarkable complexity, its aroma evolves as it burns, revealing new notes over time. This extraordinary fragrance has made agarwood one of the world's most prestigious ingredients in luxury perfumes and incense. Throughout history, it has also held profound spiritual significance. Buddhist temples burn agarwood during religious ceremonies, believing its fragrance creates an atmosphere of peace and meditation. Across the Islamic world, Its precious oil, known as oud, is regarded as one of the finest perfume ingredients ever discovered, often reserved for special occasions and treasured collections. In Japan, agarwood occupies an equally honored place in the centuries-old art of kodo, sometimes translated as the way of incense. Rather than simply smelling fragrant wood, practitioners carefully appreciate its subtle layers of aroma, with the same attention that wine experts give to fine vintages. What makes agarwood even more extraordinary is its rarity. Only a tiny percentage of wild Aquilaria trees ever become naturally infected, and many produce only small amounts of resin. Years of overharvesting and illegal logging have devastated wild populations throughout Southeast Asia as demand continued to grow. Today, premium natural agarwood can sell for tens of thousands of dollars per kilogram. Collectors, perfumers, religious institutions, and luxury fragrance houses compete for the finest material available, driving prices even higher. It is a remarkable example of nature transforming injury into extraordinary beauty. And yet, even the finest agarwood is overshadowed by something even rarer. A legendary grade, so valuable that many collectors may never see a genuine piece during their lifetime. Number 1. Agarwood. Kyara-grade. Imagine holding a piece of wood so rare that collectors protect it like priceless artwork. A material so valuable that even a fragment weighing only a few ounces can be worth more than an entire luxury car. This isn't simply agarwood. This is Kiara, the highest and most legendary grade of agarwood ever discovered. Among incense masters, perfume makers, and elite collectors, Kiara represents the absolute pinnacle of rarity and quality. It isn't classified as ordinary timber anymore. It is regarded as a cultural treasure, a luxury investment, and, by some, a spiritual masterpiece, created entirely by nature. Like all agarwood, Kiara begins inside an Aquilaria tree, after it becomes naturally infected by specific fungi. In response, the tree slowly produces aromatic resin to defend itself, gradually transforming sections of its heartwood over many decades. But creating Kiara requires something far more extraordinary. The infection must occur under exceptionally rare environmental conditions. The tree must survive for decades, sometimes even centuries, while producing resin of extraordinary purity and concentration. Only then can the wood develop the remarkable fragrance, density, and appearance that define true Kiara. Experts often describe its aroma as almost impossible to capture with words. Rather than producing a single scent, Kiara unfolds in layers. Sweet notes blend into warm spices, rich earth, soft woods, subtle bitterness, and delicate floral undertones, creating an aroma that continues evolving long after it is burned. In Japan, the appreciation of Kiara has been elevated into an art form. For centuries, masters of kodo, the traditional way of incense, have gathered to experience tiny pieces of Kiara during formal ceremonies. Instead of saying they smell the fragrance, practitioners traditionally say they listen to the incense, reflecting the deep concentration and respect given to every subtle nuance of its aroma. The rarity of genuine Kiara is almost beyond comprehension. Only a small percentage of Aquilaria trees ever develop natural agarwood. Of those, only a tiny fraction produce resin dense enough to qualify as premium grade. And among those exceptional specimens, only the rarest meet the exacting standards required to be recognized as authentic Kiara. Some experts estimate that the odds are comparable to finding a single extraordinary tree among tens of millions growing in the wild. That level of scarcity explains its astonishing value. Unlike gold or diamonds, Kiara has no universal market price because authentic pieces appear so rarely. When they do become available through private collectors or specialized auctions, prices often begin at $50,000 per kilogram and can exceed $100,000 per kilogram, placing it among the most expensive natural materials on Earth. Some historic pieces have been preserved for generations without ever being burned. Families, collectors, and temples regard them as irreplaceable heirlooms whose cultural and financial value continues to increase with time. Kiara is the ultimate reminder that nature's greatest masterpieces are often born not from perfection, but from adversity. A wounded tree, patiently defending itself over decades, creates something that no laboratory has ever been able to duplicate. From woods that produce the world's finest musical instruments to timbers so dense they sink beneath the water, these 7 extraordinary species reveal just how remarkable our forests truly are. Each one tells a different story. Some became legendary because of their incredible strength. Others earned worldwide fame through breathtaking beauty or unmatched acoustic qualities. And at the very top stands a wood, created through one of nature's most unlikely transformations, a process that turns injury into unimaginable value. Yet despite their differences, they all share one unfortunate reality. Every one of these remarkable trees has faced increasing pressure from overharvesting, habitat loss, and illegal trade. Many now survive under strict international protection, while others continue to decline in the wild. Their extraordinary value reminds us of something important. The rarest treasures on Earth aren't always hidden beneath mountains or buried deep underground. Sometimes, they're quietly growing in forests, taking generations to mature before disappearing far faster than nature can replace them. If we hope future generations will experience these incredible trees, protecting the forests they call home may be even more valuable than the wood itself. If you enjoyed today's journey through some of the world's most extraordinary natural treasures, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next adventure. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.